The brilliant younger sister, on the eve of her university entrance exam, fell in love with a notorious school delinquent. My mother and I ganged up on him, threatening him into submission. From that day on, he hated my sister like a venomous snake. Yet my sister blamed us for this. Day and night, she sent us messages, cursing us. Even after that delinquent drove over and killed my mother, she arrived at the funeral in a red dress, carrying joss paper, uttering words of "serves you right." I couldn't take it anymore. I lunged at her and we fought. The candle set the curtains ablaze. We both perished in the fire. Then I was reborn. This time I chose to respect what she called destined love between her and the delinquent. Later, he almost pleaded with my sister, "I'm about to have a child and I have no money for the hospital. Can you lend me some? Don't stop me or I'll flay you all alive." I opened my eyes, seeing Tony's tense face. The burning pain still lingered on my skin. I couldn't believe it as I looked around. I had truly been reborn. I was back to the moment my mother and I were warning Celine to stay away from my younger sister. I immediately looked at my mother beside me, realizing her attention wasn't on Tony at all. Tears in her eyes, my mother asked me, "My foolish child? It hurts a lot, doesn't it?" My tears immediately fell. "So, Mother, you've returned too, just like me, carrying the memories of our past life." "Have you two even heard a word I said?" Tony yelled, displeased. I quickly wiped my tears and looked at him. 18-year-old Tony had hair excessively long for a student, with 2 garish red streaks dyed on top. I had to restrain the urge to tear him to shreds. "My mother and I will no longer interfere in anything between you and Celine. Deal with it yourselves." As soon as I finished speaking, my mother beside me silently agreed. Tony was taken aback by our sudden change in attitude, unable to react. He glanced at us a few times to confirm the truth when suddenly the door was violently pushed open. My younger sister, Celine, rushed in. She shielded Tony, shouting, "What are you two trying to do?" Seeing Celine confront her own family to protect him, Tony immediately put on a smug, repulsive smirk. Celine was completely oblivious. "Don't interfere in our affairs anymore, and don't try to stop me." My mother couldn't help but stand up, about to raise her hand and slap Celine. I quickly stopped her, shook my head to signal, then turned to look at my sister. Her current appearance, though not as radiant as the last time I saw her in my past life, was far from that of a simple student. "You're overthinking it. No one here wants to interfere with your business." She froze, looking at me with a mix of belief and disbelief. But I didn't want to see her again, because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to control myself and would rush forward and strangle her. "Now get out," Tony snickered. Celine, unable to distinguish right from wrong. In this life, I absolutely must not get involved with them again. My sister, Celine, was consistently at the top of her class. With only a week left until the university entrance exam, Tony enticed her to drop out and work with him. Unexpectedly, Celine's homeroom teacher overheard them. The teacher gave her a good scolding, then reported it to my family, advising us to keep a close eye on her. In my past life, at this exact moment, my mother and I were not only trying to stabilize Celine's emotional state, but also arranged to meet Tony to talk, advising him to think about their future. Romance can wait. What's important is for both of you to strive for something good. How did he respond? He sneered. "What future do I have? You're worried about her future, aren't you? Do you think I can't find another girl?" He then continued, "I was the one who latched onto Celine. Yes, I enticed her to skip school, smoke, and fight, but she's not a puppet. I can't control her. She wants to be wild, she wants excitement, and she enjoys it." Tony was a mischievous child, defying rules and refusing to be disciplined. Celine was drawn to him. I wasn't surprised. Her life was solely filled with boring studies, and now a new breeze had blown in. Her heart also yearned to rebel. Tony flashed a cunning smile and shamelessly declared, "Even if I wanted to take her to rent a room right now, she'd be ready." We were already furious, and hearing this made us completely lose control. That was Celine, my biological sister. How could I stand by and watch her be ruined by someone like him? I severely reprimanded him. My mother, remembering Tony's father working at our restaurant, said, "Stay away from Kai Kai. Your father works for me, doesn't he? I'll go talk to him. If he can't control you, don't blame me for showing no mercy. I'll never forget Tony's dark, ominous gaze as he left. Afterwards, he truly did stay away from my sister, as promised. When Celine sought him out, he cursed and insulted her. When she confessed her feelings in a pouring rain, he called all his cronies to watch the spectacle. Isn't this the top student? Is she learning to be a willing dog these days? My heart ached beyond measure watching that scene. Your life has only just begun. You'll meet better people later. Under the flash of lightning, she unleashed all the humiliation Tony had inflicted on her dearest loved ones. There will be no more. No one will love me unconditionally anymore. You ruined everything. You ruined me. After the university entrance exam, Celine left home, never to return, but continued sending incessant messages every day. Evelyn Lynn, you ruined your own sister. Do you sleep well at night? My birthday wish this year is for you to live in unrest, suffering day and night like me. Evelyn Lynn, do you regret it? Honestly, at that time, I only felt heartbreak and regret, but later, they truly made me understand what bone-deep hatred felt like. After Tony earned a little money and brought his father home, he began to frequently cause trouble at our family restaurant. Business plummeted severely, but he didn't stop. One time, in a drunken rage, he drove his car straight into the restaurant. My mother died under his wheels. At the funeral, Celine, my sister whom I hadn't seen for years, finally appeared. I thought she had gone out into the wider world, and with Tony's cruel behavior, she might have seen through the truth. But instead, she wore exquisite makeup, a vibrant red dress like a blooming flower, and raised a glass of wine in her hand. She said, "See how powerful he is? It's a shame he was arrested. If it weren't for you, we could have lived peacefully together. This is your karma. Separating us, you deserve this." I walked towards her, step by step, realizing for the first time I was facing a completely unfamiliar sister. For the first time, I hit her with all my strength. She resisted just as fiercely. Finally, both of us were consumed by the flames, gnawing at each other in pain until death, neither letting go. Before I died, I heard her last words, "Evelyn Lynn, by what right do you interfere in my life?" Returning to the present, I hadn't even uttered my threat yet. This life, I need to be clearer. Only 3 days left until the university entrance exam. Celine took her ID and disappeared with Tony. The homeroom teacher was frantic, comforting us that the police had been informed. Celine didn't hesitate to abandon the academic achievements she once prided herself on, nor did she hesitate to leave her family behind. Though I had anticipated her attitude, in that moment, my heart still felt a pang of tightness, discomfort. Actually, Celine was almost entirely raised by me. When father died suddenly, she was still a toddler. Mother, burdened by family responsibilities, had to wake early and stay up late selling fried rice, so the duty of caring for my sister fell on my shoulders at the tender age of 6. She was obedient and clever, always looking up to me as a role model. When she was about to enter high school, I was applying for universities. She pointed to the first school I chose, proudly saying, "Later, I'll only choose this school." And she did exactly that. In high school, she was always the top student in her class. I used to see her room light on all night, hearing her recite lessons before dawn. Her bedside, wardrobe door, and the back of her room door were covered with densely written sticky notes. Whether in the scorching summer sun or the biting winter wind, she was always the first to arrive in class. I heard countless praises from teachers, friends, and parents. She was truly better than me. I once thought that. I waited for her to fulfill her promise from years ago. The result was that she met Tony. She quickly deviated from her original path. The more she was hindered, the more rebellious she became. I witnessed with my own eyes her transformation from a brilliant son into a tormented, deranged, irrational person. I closed my eyes tightly, trying to recall the lottery numbers from that year. In my past life, I had bought a ticket, only off by 1 digit, the difference between 80,000 and 80 million. And what about Celine's life in this reincarnation, now that she's abandoned her university entrance exam? How much more will it diverge from her past life? The exam that year ended. The story of Celine dropping out for a delinquent spread throughout the region. The neighborhood children all attended schools close to each other, so such a major event became post-exam gossip. Aunt Wang, our neighbor, had also watched my sister and me grow up. She stood in our house, so worried she was stomping her feet. She didn't take the exam, ran off with a boy. My child just came home and told me. I slowly poured Auntie a hot glass of water. Yes, that's right. My mother also brought out a plate of strawberries. Try these strawberries I bought this morning. They're very sweet. Eat what, eat what? Have you found her? The homeroom teacher reported it to the police. What's going on? Little Celine has always been so obedient and hardworking. This question left my mother and me silent. Yes, why did Celine Lin turn out this way? Neither my mother nor I had an answer. Aunt Wang sighed again. You once went through so much hardship just to save up tuition for Celine. She told my mother that my mother hadn't dared to buy a new piece of clothing for 3 or 4 years, saving every penny to put into a bank account for Celine's university education. My own tuition that year also came from my mother's hard-earned savings. Later, when I worked part-time while studying, I also contributed to my mother's savings for Celine Lin's tuition, somewhat easing the burden on my mother's shoulders. After seeing Aunt Wang off, I picked up a strawberry from the plate and cautiously asked, Kai loves strawberries the most, doesn't she? I had resolved to give up on Celine Lin, but what about Mother? Both daughters were her flesh and blood. Mother's attitude would also influence my choice. By bringing out strawberries today, did it mean she still had hope for Celine Lin? Could Mother truly bear to let her fend for herself? Mother bit into a ripe, plump strawberry and said, Strawberries are expensive. For so many years I saved up, and I don't know if I ever let her eat her fill. Here, you eat some too. You kids call these strawberry heads, don't you? Good. From now on, there's no need to save any for her. That sentence was probably Mother's answer to me. Many days had passed since the university entrance exam. Our house had been discussed countless times. Celine Lin was finally found. The police informed her homeroom teacher, who had filed the report, and then the teacher notified us. At the police station, the teacher was already there, both angry and regretful, advising Celine Lin with all her heart. The police said they were found in a chaotic, cheap motel on the outskirts. Tony sat lazily on the chair, looking completely unconcerned. Celine Lin's hair was messy, braided haphazardly, with pale foundation on her cheeks and smeared lipstick at the corners of her mouth. She was dressed in a vulgar style. Tony's name was tattooed on her collarbone, large enough to be seen at a glance. The teacher's advice was so extensive her throat was dry, but Celine Lin remained indifferent, not moved in the slightest. Helplessly, the teacher pulled me aside and said that this year's exam was a format she had practiced extensively, and it didn't fall into her weak points. If she had participated, she might have even achieved the top score. At this point, the teacher grew even more regretful, urging me to convince my sister to retake the exam. I replied, she doesn't even regret it. Why should we? Wouldn't that be demeaning ourselves? Besides, in the past life, she didn't become the top student either. In this life, she doesn't even need to dream of it. The teacher looked at Celine Lin, her face icy, then left in disappointment. Perhaps from now on, she would be a prime negative example in her teaching career. The police criticized them briefly and then allowed us to take Celine Lin home. Tony had to wait for his father to pick him up. I nodded, turned, and walked away. Honestly, if it weren't for legal regulations that I'm still her sister, I wouldn't even have bothered to show up. Unexpectedly, as I turned around, I saw Celine Lin following behind. She kept looking back at me as she walked, saying, or maybe you shouldn't come home. Go with Tony and his father. Celine Lin looked back several times with lingering reluctance, but in the end, she quickly caught up with us. When she opened her room door, the first thing that caught her eye was the sticky notes filled with English vocabulary. Next were several boxes of books and practice workbooks. On the desk lay an unfinished math test, only the last page with the big problem remaining. The room was exactly as she had left it. She stood silently for half a minute, then quietly entered, undressed, climbed into bed, and closed her eyes. I didn't want to be in the same space as her, intending to go out for some fresh air, but she suddenly spoke. Your choice this time. It's different. I froze. I suddenly remembered the last time we arranged to meet Tony, Celine Lin showed up right on time. This had never happened in the past life. So that's it. She too had been reborn. I looked at her calmly, waiting for her to continue. Then you should also understand clearly, if you dare to interfere with us, Tony will go mad. Do you want to experience the same ending as in your past life? Such a foolish threat. All those dirty words could be summed up in one sentence: you misunderstood. Starting today, I officially acknowledge the sister who dropped out, brother who skipped school, couple that you two are. Anyone who sees you can't help but exclaim, a match made in heaven. Her face changed color. She muttered, in this life, I won't be your puppet anymore. No, I was never a puppet. Haven't you always wanted to control me, wanted me to live according to your will? But I was obedient for so many years, I lived properly for so many years, only to be deemed wrong for once wanting to escape confinement. You don't understand me. You only regret that your investments in me are about to go down the drain. Later, I won't be able to repay you, so you vigorously tried to stop me, destroy me, calculate me. In the end, it's all for nothing. The money I earned in my past life, I didn't give you a single cent. It'll be the same in this life. She shrieked in despair, making my head throb. Ha, you truly are too foolish. Although I was scolding her, my heart ached. When she was little, I took her to and from school. When she grew up, I tutored her. We were once the closest people on earth. She knew exactly where a sharp Capricorn blade like mine needed to pierce to hurt the most. In my past life, my life was ordinary and meaningless. Our family restaurant declined for unclear reasons. I didn't know it was due to Tony's covert sabotage. I toiled outside, doing work I didn't like, in a profession I didn't love, amidst jostling crowds, just hoping to snatch a few leftover crumbs from a shared cake. Homeless and adrift, I would count stars on my way home from work. When half awake and half dreaming, the sound I heard was the automated announcement of the subway. When I was struggling in my cramped rental room, I would open my phone to find messages of concern from the sister I loved most. In every word, she listed her current comfortable life, along with her stubbornness over a lost youthful love, which, in my eyes, was ridiculous. I often wondered, did I spoil her? Now, looking back, my biggest regret is never having truly given her a proper scolding. I squeezed my eyes shut, then opened them, looking directly into hers. Celine, for the first time, I truly realized that academic achievement cannot measure a person's intelligence. You are so foolish it makes people resentful. If you want to destroy yourself, go ahead, but stay away from my family. Lest when lightning strikes you, it implicates me. She wavered slightly, then firmly said, why doesn't this house have a share for me? I burst out laughing at her brazenness. If you dare to think about taking this house, then prepare to pay the price. If it were the old me, I would never have imagined having such a fierce exchange with Celine. But if she also reincarnated, bringing back memories of her past life, then don't blame me for returning every debt to her. I looked at the digits before the decimal point in my bank account, 80 million. The lottery prize in this life had fallen into my hands. I told no one, only made an excuse to mother and packed a simple bag. While the world buzzed with the news of Celine dropping out of her exam and running away with Tony, I stayed home, researching a suitable city for a peaceful life afterward. After much thought, I chose a place where every season felt like spring, preparing for a new life. My current situation with Celine was too deeply entangled. Only by completely severing ties could I stay away from her and Tony. I hadn't planned to tell Mother yet, partly because I wasn't sure if Mother could cut off her feelings as I could, and partly because I feared if it got out, Celine would seek us out and bother us. In this life, I had foreseen her miserable existence. I absolutely could not let her and Tony latch onto us. As soon as I set foot in the new place, I was greeted by bright sunshine. This must be a good omen. The city had a very slow pace of life, just enough for me to walk and enjoy the scenery. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the warm scent of sunshine. Since I could remember, my life had always been tied to caring for Celine. When doing homework, I had to watch over her. Mother was busy with business, so I had to cook for her. On weekends, while friends went out to play, I stayed home to watch my sister. Mother often apologized to me, but I knew that from a housewife to a family breadwinner, she had worked incredibly hard. It's just that I always felt a sense of lack in my heart, so I tried to compensate Celine with all my abilities. Her childhood was much lighter and happier than mine. She didn't have to bear the responsibility of caring for the family, didn't have to worry about food and clothing, was free like a spring flower. I never expected to raise someone like that. In this life, the person I want to compensate the most is myself. After living here for a few days, I experienced, for the first time, a sense of ease I hadn't known in 2 lifetimes. No one knew who I was. For the first time, I put aside the burden of being the eldest child. I could be selfish and relaxed for once. I chose a piece of land, hired a construction team, and was about to take out the design plans to discuss when I received a call from Aunt Wang. "Evelyn, hurry home and see. What's wrong with Kai Kai? She brought that boy home to live with you, and she's demanding money from your mother. What in the world is going on? I can't make heads or tails of it," Auntie just said. "Come home right now." In my past life, Celine was rejected and humiliated by Tony multiple times. He bluntly said he couldn't be with her. It was then that Celine became heartbroken and desperate, left home, and cut ties with us. She never returned until my mother passed away. But in this life, they were freely together. Celine even carried the hatred from her past life. What else did they want to do? I shivered with a cold dread. Before I even got close to the house, I saw the gate wide open. Outside, a crowd of onlookers gathered. I pushed my way through. Before my eyes was a chaotic mess. The floor was covered in broken ceramic shards, mashed fruit mixed with water, and even condoms. Tony and Celine were casually dressed, sprawled on the sofa across from a table. My mother was there, panting, exhausted from anger. I immediately rushed forward to shield her. Aunt Wang was overjoyed to see me, as if I were a savior. "Evelyn, you're finally home. Look at those two." I didn't need to hear anything to understand what was happening. Celine had brought Tony home to wreak havoc, turning our house into a battlefield. I glared at Celine. "I truly underestimated your brazenness. Bringing trash into my home, get out of here right now." Celine retorted, "By what right? This is my home too." The surrounding neighbors couldn't hold back anymore. "This girl is crazy, bringing a boy home to do bad things right in the living room. She must be possessed. She doesn't need a bright future. What a waste of all her family's efforts in raising her." I yelled, "Shut up and mind your own business." After a moment's thought, I changed my approach. "A man who can't even afford to rent a room, and you dare to cut ties with your family to make room for him. What kind of love does he have for you?" As expected, Celine's face darkened. Tony still blustered. "We're students, where would we get money?" I laughed. "Are you two even students anymore? Sister dropped out, brother skipped school, you stopped being students a long time ago." Tony tried to say something else, but Celine cut him off. "Don't say anything more. This is my room, I still have the right to use it, don't I?" With that, she dragged Tony into the room, her face grim. "Wait," Mother spoke up. "Bring out the money you stole from the cash register." They hadn't even spared the money from the restaurant. Tony glanced at us with contempt, then pulled out a wad of crumpled money from his pocket and threw it. "Who wants these few coins? That's not all, the rest went to buy condoms. This is what's left over. Take it if you want," he said, then tossed a small, empty box to me. I suppressed my anger, my eyes fixed on the closing bedroom door. Initially, I only intended to give Tony a little push to make him more miserable. As for Celine, I just needed to stand by and watch her suffer the consequences, because I already knew her miserable future. But looking at this situation, was she even worthy of my forgiveness? In my past life, Tony could swagger in and cause trouble at our house every day because he had become a crony for a gang leader, gaining backing from him. In this life, I pushed him a step earlier, letting him find a godfather. Sure enough, one push from me and he went down the same old path. The only difference was that in the past life, he caused trouble because of my mother, and in this life, it was for the money in the cash register. His father still worked as a sous chef in our kitchen, yet he pretended not to see anything. And Celine? As long as Tony threw a few cheap items her way, she was as happy as a child with a fruit. I no longer had the energy to care. On one hand, I had to be wary of Tony, and on the other, supervise the construction of my small house. I was so busy my head was spinning. That day, Mother argued with Celine again. As soon as I got home, I saw Mother trembling with rage. "Bring it back here." Celine stubbornly retorted, "Bring what back? It was mine to begin with." My mother gasped. She stole the ATM card where I saved her tuition money. Celine showed no remorse. "What stole? In the past life, it was mine too. That money was always mine." My mother almost collapsed. I quickly supported her. That's right. Celine had also been reborn, returning with memories of her past life. I hadn't had a chance to tell Mother about this yet. Mother's voice trembled as she asked, "So, from the very beginning, you knew Tony was the one who killed me with a car, and you still chose to be with him?" Celine replied, "That's because you two drove us apart, you made him lose me. I was the bright moon in his heart. He never let go of me, that's why he hated you. See, in this life, he hasn't done anything to you, has he?" My mother couldn't take it anymore. She slapped her. "Get out, I don't have a daughter like you." Celine was still stubborn. "Tony and I will get married, we need a place to live. Later, I'll be successful like in my past life and I'll make it up to you." With that, she ran into the room and slammed the door. My mother stood still for a very long time before she calmed down. I sat silently beside her. "It's just a small amount of money. Why argue with her? Who knows what she and Tony will do if they get angry?" My mother sighed. "I had intended to use that money to start a new life with you, and a part of it was yours too. What if starting over means cutting ties with Celine? But Evelyn, that girl, she can only destroy us again. I can't watch you die in a fire again." Confirming my mother's attitude, I felt incredibly relieved. "As long as you say that, Mother, I'm at ease." I decided to transfer the restaurant, but as soon as the news spread, more and more delinquents came to cause trouble, and no one wanted to buy it at a fair price. At this moment, Tony's father, who was working as a sous chef, appeared. I began to suspect what role Tony's father played behind Tony's arrogance. He and my mother had known each other for many years, yet he never disciplined his son's behavior. I secretly investigated for many days before realizing that, while my mother found him diligent and honest, other employees found him calculating, petty, and difficult to approach. More importantly, none of Tony's girlfriends, past or present, were ever like Celine, the well-behaved type. It became clear what his father and son were scheming. Thanks to this, I finally exposed his true colors. I smiled faintly. "You said you want me to transfer the restaurant to you for free." He replied nonchalantly, "Yes, business is tough these days, and every day we have to deal with troublemakers. Although I'm not paying money, I'm bearing a lot of pressure, aren't I?" How shameless. He finally revealed his true nature, no longer playing the good guy, extending his sharp claws. "Your mother and I have known each other for so many years. Giving it to an outsider is not as good as letting an acquaintance benefit. You should understand this." I didn't bother to say much more to him. I was only putting on a show to see if he truly had an agenda, to gauge their father-son plan. In reality, I had already finalized arrangements with the landlord, agreeing to pay a small penalty for breach of contract, rather than letting those two benefit. Now the restaurant was constantly frequented by unsavory characters, and with Celine and Tony wreaking havoc inside, there was no longer any reason to continue the business. If I delayed any longer, offending Tony and his father would make it even harder to escape. Seeing that I didn't want to continue talking, he hastily said, "Business is getting worse and worse. If you keep waiting, no one will pay money to take it over. It's better to transfer it to me soon. Maybe I can even turn the situation around." I smiled disdainfully. "What's your hurry? There will be plenty more for you to worry about later." With that, I turned and walked away. I played the recording of my conversation with Tony's father for my mother. She was so angry she couldn't speak. After calming down, she also understood that the restaurant was now targeted by others and couldn't continue. "What will we live on then?" Mother worried. I smiled, reassuring her, "You don't need to worry about that. I've taken care of everything. Everything is prepared." I led my mother away from the city we had lived in for decades to a completely new place to start a new life. When she saw the small house I had just finished building, my mother stood speechless. I laughed and said, "The first thing to do after being reborn, isn't it to buy a lottery ticket?" Mother chuckled, then shook her head. "I never thought of that. I only hoped to sell the restaurant, gather some money, and then my daughter and I would go out and work." I said, "We've been reborn, who would go out and work again." My mother and I quietly left, taking our household registration, property deed, and almost all the furniture in the house, except for Celine's room and a few old items in the living room. Aunt Wang recounted that the next day, when Celine and Tony woke up and found everything empty, they were stunned and furious, but there was nothing left in the house to smash. Soon after, the landlord repossessed the restaurant. I had already paid severance to all the employees, except for Tony's father. He stood at the restaurant door, cursing all morning, eventually reported to the police by the landlord for disturbing the peace. From then on, they lost all sources of livelihood. When she realized Celine could no longer contact my mother and me, we had changed our numbers and blocked all contact. She no longer had the opportunity to send daily curses. From the moment they lost their first home, the sweet wall they had once built together began to collapse. Celine was too naive. In her past life, her life was smooth. Although she didn't get into Tsinghua or Peking University, she was admitted to a prestigious school, earned master's and doctoral degrees, won many awards, was arranged a stable job, and bought a car and house at a very young age. Only that young man of yesteryear, the one she cherished in her heart, had vanished into the sea of people. When people satisfy their basic needs, they seek higher spiritual values. After her life stabilized, she never forgot Tony, constantly remembering and idolizing him, so her first act upon reincarnation was to try and preserve her love with Tony. But she forgot that the condition for fulfilling that dream of love was a full, abundant life. The better one lives, the more one remembers what was missed. But now, with the foundation of survival stripped away, how long could that castle of love stand? I specifically reserved a small garden patch for growing flowers. In the past, my mother loved planting all sorts of flowers, but ever since my father passed away, there was no one to help her. Our family relationships also grew increasingly distant. For the sake of livelihood, for her 2 daughters, mother bore everything on her thin, small shoulders, selling day after day, regardless of rain or shine. In my past life, no matter how much hardship I endured outside, how much grievance, I never told mother. Even Celine's curses I didn't mention, but I never expected mother to be the same. Celine's messages weren't just sent to me, but also to mother. My mother also kept quiet about Tony's actions at the restaurant, not wanting me to worry. By the time I found out, mother could no longer open her eyes. "What are you thinking about?" mother asked, seeing me lost in thought. I shook my head. "Nothing, mother, just thinking a little about the past life. Now, everything is in the past. Heaven gave us another chance to live, isn't it to live better?" Mother, if according to my plan, Celine would inevitably fall into the trap she set for herself. Wasn't that the path she chose? It was the same in the past life, we just interfered. But in this life, she's acting on her own free will. My mother picked up a small potted plant, filled only with soil. I was surprised. Mother smiled. "Can't tell, can you? There's a seed inside. It will bloom next spring." "Really? I'm truly looking forward to it." Celine was 3 months pregnant. This should have been good news, but currently they couldn't even support themselves. Tony told Celine to get an abortion. She immediately started yelling and cursing. All the blame, she continued to shift onto others. "If you weren't too stingy to buy condoms, how would I have gotten pregnant?" Tony was not one to back down. "You were the one who clung to me. I didn't use condoms. Didn't you know to take birth control pills?" The 2 of them started arguing fiercely in the room, then it escalated into a fight. Finally, Tony slammed the door and left, leaving Celine sitting on the broken sofa, covering her face, sobbing. All of this was recounted to me by Aunt Wang. After leaving that place, we cut off all contact with old acquaintances precisely so Celine couldn't find us. Only Aunt Wang, whom I trusted, remained in contact. After learning about Celine's actions, Auntie grew even more indignant, often discussing and criticizing her with neighbors for abandoning her exam for a delinquent, bringing him home to wreak havoc, causing the restaurant to close, and forcing her mother and sister to leave. Gradually, the entire neighborhood knew about Celine and Tony. She had never been so humiliated. She grew increasingly dissatisfied with Tony's laziness and freeloading. Moreover, after my mother and I left, Tony brazenly considered the house his own, not only unilaterally bringing his father to live there, but also frequently gathering his gangster friends to hang out, turning the house into a foul-smelling slum. I decided to add fuel to the fire. Celine, as I predicted, decided to keep the baby, planning to use the tuition money my mother and I had saved for her to give birth. But when she went to the hospital for a prenatal checkup, she discovered that her account was empty. That was because the last time I spoke with Tony's father, I inadvertently revealed that there was still money in the card. Now, the money must have fallen into Tony's hands. My suspicion was quickly confirmed. During Tony's bragging sessions with his friends, Celine, this time, didn't cry or get angry. She simply calmly accepted the reality, looking utterly desperate. Not long after, she called me again. Although I had changed my number, I still kept my old phone just to receive this call. Her voice, almost pleading, came from the other end. "I'm about to give birth, and I don't have money for the hospital. Can you lend me a little?" "Celine, you deserve it. This is your retribution." I immediately hung up and then turned off the phone, not giving her a chance to say another word. That sentence was exactly what she had said to me the last time we met in my past life. Today, I could finally return it verbatim. Celine had pushed herself into a situation where she had no one by her side. Only now did she slowly realize. She started arguing with Tony every day about the baby. In the end, Tony always slammed the door and left, leaving Celine to cry alone in the dilapidated house. I didn't stop there. As sisters who had once been so close, I had to let her clearly see the true face of Tony, the man she herself had chosen. Rumors began to spread that Tony was cheating. The neighbors gossiped, making her gradually shift from disbelief to insecurity. When Tony came home late, Celine's emotions exploded. Many days of pent-up feelings made Tony furious too. Tony didn't admit anything and even cursed Celine, calling her a crazy, paranoid woman. The thing that made Celine dare to abandon everything, wasn't it that so-called love? If that love was just an illusion, how could she accept it? She screamed, demanding an explanation from Tony, but he didn't want to and couldn't respond. Tony's father even chimed in, sarcastically telling her, "No one wants a thing like you." Like father, like son, Celine was completely isolated. Unable to argue back, she started smashing things and hitting people. The house erupted into a storm. According to Aunt Wang, several neighbors called the police in the middle of the night. Celine, fighting 2 against 1, was kicked to the ground and suffered numerous slaps. When the police arrived, there was a pool of blood under her, and the baby was lost. Tony, however, was relieved as if nothing had happened, intending to use a few sweet words to keep Celine around as a free servant. Celine was like a stone, asking in a hoarse voice, "Do you know what I gave up for you?" Tony thought she was only referring to dropping out of school. He guiltily hastened to clear himself of responsibility. "What do you mean, for me? You did it voluntarily. I didn't force you. You can't even sue me." Celine remained silent for a long time, then suddenly threw her head back and laughed maniacally, her voice hoarse like a cornered beast.